Musclebox Radio, this is season number 2, episode number 1. So we're back, and today, myself, Stephen Box, is joined by Christopher Emmett. Chris, how the hell are you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm well. I'm very excited to be on the first episode of the new season of Musclebox Radio.
Yeah.
So excited to
Season 2.
Content. Season 2. What did I say?
I don't know, but it's season 2, the evolution of muscle.
Evolution of muscle.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
I was going to go with, Muscle Strikes Back, but I just felt like this was better.
We did say the return of the pod, the Muscle Strike Back. There seems to be some sort of Star Wars theme coming up here, I think.
We could just chat about Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, nice. The new one's coming out this year, isn't it? Excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Really excited.
So this literally took me about 4 takes to do the intro because I'm a bit rusty, as you might be able to tell. Yeah. We've had a break, and the reason why we've had a break is because we've just had so much on at Team Box. It's been pretty crazy kind of couple of months since April, hasn't it, for us? Yeah, really busy. Obviously, I actually saw you yesterday, because obviously we've been at Team Box HQ, which has been a really exciting move, have obviously an actual HQ and have a place that we can work together every week. It's been great working on some new projects, and obviously we did our second group coaching, a second Team Box retreat. Yeah, it's been busy. Yeah, we had body power first. Well, we had group coaching, we had body power. We then had the retreat, moving into our office now, which is pretty cool, to actually have a proper premises where we can work out of as a team. We can work on the business and things like that. It's just brilliant to have that sort of solid space where we can get together and really develop things. Yeah, and hide each other's stuff, because not much else seems to happen apart from that. And trolling. We do troll each other a lot. Lots of trolling, lots of hiding each other's stuff. Lots of pig noises when people eat their food. Yeah, and all the standard office antics, right? Yeah, exactly. And some, rather horrific stuff that gets drawn on the whiteboard. Mention no name, Mike Harrison. Yeah, I feel like our office behaviour, we've got that down. We just need to now work, which I don't think we've managed to do yet. Yeah, there's just that tricky transition we need to go through, messing around into actual productive work. Yeah, so, but we'll get there, mate. We'll get there. Simple things, right? Let's build it up. Like we would have a training plan. Which brings us on to today's episode. So, what me and Chris are going to hopefully chat about at some point in this episode is basically how to build muscle. So, also known as making gains, also known as muscle hypertrophy. Any of those fancy words, basically, how do you go about building muscle? Me and Chris are just going to hopefully chat about it at some point, once we've kind of got over the Star Wars chat and everything else, really. Yeah, getting swole. But because we've now got a season 2, we are going to be bringing in a couple of special little features that are going to be a regular thing on the podcast. So some more exciting news. I've got some incredible guests lined up for the show. So they'll be interviewed by myself over the next coming months and weeks, and we'll continue to get you out, hopefully, a weekly episode. And then that way you constantly know that you've got that in your ears every single week, where you can go to, hopefully get some good information and start applying that to your training, really. Because that's the whole goal of this, is just, good information, but that has some sort of application, really. Basically, hopefully you'll be listening to this on Friday the 7th of July, and then every Friday there'll be a new episode for you to download. So if you haven't done so already, head over to Musclebox Radio and subscribe. Mate, that is the best way to start your weekend, Musclebox Radio, Well, exactly. Friday. You've got it for the bang. You've got it there early, because if you're going to go for that morning Saturday walk, you've got it there in your ears, Boom. I know that's what I do for my weekends. Get a nice podcast on. Yeah. Lovely. Strong. So you've just been to the gym, Chris. What I thought a great weekly feature we could do is a little bit about, because obviously we get a lot of guests on here, and you guys, the other Team Box coaches. So for those who don't know, Team Box is a nutrition and training online company where we help people essentially one-to-one or in group formats basically get shredded and gain muscle over however long they want, really, don't we?
We do. That is the premise.
And as a company, we have 6 coaches. So there's myself, there's Chris Emmett, who you're chatting to now. There is Michael Harrison. There is Laura Baker, Daniel Meek, and Emil Goliath. Have I forgot everyone, or is that everyone?
I think that's everyone.
Yeah. And so essentially each week we'll get different coaches on because everyone's got such a great variety of experiences in breadth of knowledge. We can basically bring those on in. One thing that I really want to get across is what you guys are doing and our guests are doing in the gym, and also what you're doing with your nutrition, because I think for me that's the interesting bit. It's great having all this knowledge, but actually how are we applying it? So Chris, what are you doing with your training at the moment?
Well, I am actually 2 weeks into rugby pre-season, so I am actually getting back to playing some team sports this year. Obviously, the last few years have been very busy in terms of doing some photo shoots, competing, etc. And I just kind of sat down before Christmas last year and just thought, what do I want to do in 2017? And I used to play rugby at reasonably standard, and just thought, actually, the idea of getting back to that kind of motivates me, something I want to do. So I'm 2 weeks into pre-season, which means my body is in bits, means I'm just just tired. Trying to cram in as much food as I can to recover and be on point with my training. But I've been working through quite a grueling sort of training program the last kind of 5-6 months, focusing on getting stronger, focusing on getting bigger, a bit more powerful. But obviously, playing a sport like rugby, there's got to be the conditioning element, cardio.
Yeah.
That's obviously played a big part of it as well. So it's a difficult kind of training time. It's probably great. Yeah, it's a difficult time because you've got to obviously make sure you're balancing your strength work, maintaining onto muscle mass, getting fitter. So you've got to keep your eyes on juggle a lot of balls at once. But it's going well.
No pun intended with juggling balls there, Chris.
Not at all. Not at all. Very apt of you to pick that up.
That was actually quite quick for me.
Yeah, very quick.
I'm not actually a particularly witty or quick-witted person, so that was a good one. I'm gonna note that in my diary today.
Nice.
No, mate, that's good. That's quality. And it's good just to have that direction. I love when I used to play volleyball and stuff. Just that weekly game day training. That whole kind of build up to the weekend, play match. If you win, lose or draw, whatever, go away, improve, come back, be better, work harder. And it's a really good mentality to be in, I think.
Yeah, I think, and I'm really excited now for playing this season, going back at, a standard, which is basically semi-professional, and trying to use what I've done.
Big dog.
Well, I didn't want to just say that I was just playing down the local club with me and, 3 boys just turned up and one's got one leg.
Basically, me and Dan and Mike.
Yeah, whatever. But I'm hopefully going to, really trying to bring on board what I learned over the last couple of years with competing and the kind of discipline and mentality that kind of does need you to bring with your dieting and the training. And but it's a different sort of thing now where my training volume is high, but my calories are high, as opposed to when you're dieting, your food obviously is low and your training is moderate to high. So I just want to try and learn from what I've kind of picked up in the last couple of years of competing and all that kind of side of things, really. So I'm just excited to see how the season progresses. And obviously the main goal for me is to play first team, start every week, play as well as I can, but also enjoy it as well. And
so what have you just sorry to interrupt there, but what have you kind of been doing in the gym that might differ to what you did when you're doing competing for bodybuilding?
Yeah, great question. So there's still been elements of bodybuilding in my program. So I've still been, focusing on sort of isolation movements, focusing on, working those rep range from, 8 to 12 reps, which might be your stereotypical bodybuilding rep range. But a lot of
it's a great rep range, mate.
Oh, brilliant rep range. But a lot of the work has also been some kind of speed work. So with things like, heavy compound stuff like squats, actually doing lighter loads but moving the bar faster. There's still been a big strength element of it, but then some of the sessions latterly over the last 3-4 weeks have actually included me doing sprints or actual conditioning and then going straight into the gym and doing back squats. So you're already a bit pre-fatigued. So it's a little bit more relative. Is that, yeah, might be able to squat X amount, but in a game of rugby, you're not going to be squatting X amount or doing something particular. You're going to be a bit pre-fatigued. So, yeah, there's still been lots of things that I'm familiar with, bench pressing, squatting, that kind of stuff, but just a bit more some plyometric work, kind of things like that, which is, it's just been a nice twist with training as well. Like, I love training, but I also like to have a fresh direction with things. So I have been working with a coach over the last kind of 5-6 months, which I'm just slowly coming to the finish of working with him as I now get into the season.
And who is that?
Guy, Dan Forbes. Big shout out to Dan. He's a really knowledgeable guy. He's worked in a lot of strength and conditioning guys. And yeah, just, he's been really helpful. He also helped me navigate the kind of post-competing period where I maybe struggled a little bit, just getting back to a sense of normality with food and training, which I'm sure anyone who's competed or got down to a decent level of body fat will resonate with. So,
mate,
Jim,
I was looking through some old pictures today. I was kind of clearing out my library on my phone, and I found some pictures of when I was like taking progress pictures and stuff, and maybe the odd selfie or whatever pre-comp. My God, I was peeled. I look back now and I'm like, God, I just want to get shredded again.
Yeah, I know. I had a call with one of my clients today, and he was looking back at photos when he was much leaner. When he said at the time he didn't feel that lean, and he looked back now and he's like, "Yeah, I was damn lean." It's such good information. I remember when the first kind of like prep I did with yourself coaching me is that you said like, just take photos because you can always hold on to them. You can't take them again.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that information that you can look back at 2-3 years ago and seeing when you were X amount of weight. Because if you track your weight, it's really interesting information to look back at, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, that's nice, mate. And with my own training at the moment, what I've kind of been doing actually is since I got back from holiday last week, I'm just kind of now, because my mornings have changed. So before I was training around midday, now I'm actually going to a morning session, which is actually sort of given me a lot of different challenges. So I'm still in the middle of sort of creating my own training program to get that right. And I've been kind of doing a bit of reading on different training programs and that kind of stuff, just for a bit of inspiration. And hopefully I'll get some of the guests on that I've been reading about, because it'd be great to speak to them a little bit more. But yeah, I'm just kind of in that own transition stage myself. Is coming back from holiday, wanting to get my training back consistent. Training, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing 4 or 5 days a week. But I'm just looking at my body thinking, I need to grow. I want to get bigger, because next time I compete, I want to be back on stage with a lot more gains.
Nice.
So go on.
So not to like give our listeners an insight, but when do you reckon that might be? Hint.
Yeah, the guest.
No, like when do you think when do you realistically look yourself like competing again in the future, or do you kind of have any thought about that kind of stuff long term? And obviously, your focus for now is to get a bit bigger and stronger, but I think what's your kind of focus going forward?
I think that if I do 2018,
yeah, nice.
That will give me plenty of time. That would have, since last show, that would have given me a good nearly 2 years to grow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Call it 18 months, because obviously that's going to include a diet phase in there as well. But yeah, I think 18 months to 2 years off, just to actually gain some size, because realistically, if I'm perfectly honest, the last kind of 6 months hasn't been particularly ideal for muscle building. And a lot of the stuff that I'm just kind of haven't been like fully there, because my attention's been elsewhere.
Yeah,
it's been on building team box and all that kind of stuff, which is great. And I've kind of I think I'm a little bit bigger, but yeah, I probably haven't made optimal gains, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll come on to this again shortly. Is that with gaining muscle, you've just got to really commit to it and just be consistent with it. You can't really afford to train well for 7 to 8 weeks and then take your foot off the gas for 5 to 6. It's not just like fat loss where you're just trying to maintain muscle mass and get the weight off, maintaining energy output. It's just like you've got to really constantly build and be consistent with it. And sometimes it can feel like every week merges into another. But yeah, I think hopefully next 6-7 months for you will look like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate, whether they've got, family commitments or work commitments and things. And it's just one of those that I had a really good kind of like December, January, February time. Like I was training full body, programming was really good, strength was going through the roof, but injured my IT band and that hit me for six really. My squat came down, motivation was a bit lower. Every time I tried to do anything leg-wise, it was just niggling and pulling and tightness. So, I think I'm kind of on the mend now. So it's just going to be nice to get back to that. So, I mean, like for myself and Laura, we were chatting the other day. We were like, right, come on, let's step it up now. We can push a little bit more. So just like some of the things that we've been doing now, like you said, just to get consistent again, it's just prepping food. I think I've become quite lazy with that, and I just think getting back to some food prepping is really helpful just to get some consistency in with the nutrition side, because there's nothing worse in turning up to a session and with nothing in the tank. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think sometimes is that you can go so far, like you can be put in so much time where you train consistently when you first get into training or whatever, and your food prep is on point for a period, is that you then go back to the other end of the spectrum where you started, where like your diet can kind of just be, I look at my diet and I just think at the moment I'm just not eating enough like fruit and veg. It's like stupid. Like I started to try and blend up like smoothies in the morning to get myself more fruit and veg in, but like for me it's literally just about like trying to get calories in, and with the training I'm doing and the hopefully the muscle that I gain I want to maintain. So it's kind of like sometimes you actually just kind of need to go down to some real simple things about okay, I'm going to eat 5 to 6 pieces of vegetables a day. I'm going to prep 2 meals a day. I'm going to have 5-6 protein spikes, etc. throughout the day. It's just actually you do all this stuff, but you sometimes just have to come right back to basics, and it's very easy, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back to you with some of mine and Chris's top tips for building gains. So we're back from the break, and like me and Chris were speaking about, is basically all things muscle gain. So, Chris, what would be your go-to, your number one thing that you would kind of prioritize for someone wanting to gain some muscle? It can be training or nutrition. You can go with it.
Okay, well, there is a training one, but I'm going to just go down to the nutrition route, and I'm sure you can step into the training side of things. Nutrition-wise,
I mean, I can talk.
I mean, you can talk.
I mean, I can talk.
And that kind of leads on, you've got to eat. With nutrition, you've got to eat enough food. And I think this is something that a lot of guys just do not, guys or girls, not pigeonholing, is that you really do need to get enough food in. And it's not just about getting your weight on the scale to move up. It's about training hard, recovering sufficiently. We all know that being in a calorie surplus is going to be more optimal for muscle gain than being in maintenance or definitely in a calorie deficit. And I think when you look at people who generally have bigger appetites or have just generally just eat a bit more, and maybe over years before where they actually started tracking calories, if they're just generally those people with a little bit more muscle mass. I think there's definitely a correlation there. So, for me, you've got to make sure that you are eating enough food and calories. And for those people whose appetite is not as big, I think tracking calories is really, really essential. Because if you are someone who generally has a big appetite and you're always going to maybe slightly overeat, well, then actually maybe tracking calories during an off-season or a period of gaining muscle is fine. You don't need to track. You just need to make sure you get enough protein feedings, monitor your body weight, etc. But for some people,
with consuming enough calories, then where do we draw the line at? Do you think that, like you obviously hear, like the dirty bulk? Should we just be piling in calories willy-nilly, or is it a case of should we monitor where we're at and how much do we then increase calories by? Give us some sort of ballpark figures to work with.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, let's say you're roughly where your maintenance calories is, just putting yourself into maybe a 300 calorie surplus to start with, monitor your body weight, take some measurements, see if you can do that on a monthly basis, as I say, monitor your body weight, see how that goes, whether it starts to go up, etc. performance in the gym is obviously going to be massively important, because if you are lifting more on a weekly, monthly basis, that's going to be a good indication that you're gaining muscle as well. But yeah, like some people will just go in there and cram a huge amount of calories into that kind of dirty bulk. But again, I would come back to that kind of period where that kind of thought of that, if someone's got a massive appetite and they do that, well, that's just silly. They're just going to put on too much fat gain, too much body fat. It's going to be hard to see what muscle gain you've built. The guys with smaller appetites, I still wouldn't see that's the best way to do it. But yeah, just get yourself 300-400 calories into a calorie surplus. Monitor things. Your weight will start to stall a little bit, and that's where you're going to maybe start to think about increasing things. Add maybe an extra 25-50 grams of carbs a day, whatever it needs to be.
So an extra 100 or 200 calories in when that happens.
Yeah. Just making sure your protein protein can pretty much sit where it needs to be, whether it's in fat loss or muscle gain. Increase carbohydrates.
So then, with protein, then where do you kind of recommend we set, or how much protein should someone be eating if they're looking to gain muscle?
I look at it. I set protein at the lowest range from 1.8 up to the highest range of 3. I would say 3 is grams per kilo.
Okay. So if you're 100 kilos, that's easy to work out. That's 300 grams at the top end or 180 at the bottom end. If you're 80 kilos, I think it's going to be around 220 or something. Or is that 3? Something like that. Maybe a little bit lower, 2.8 perhaps. So yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the personal preference comes down to that as well. So if someone just does like to eat a bit more meat and, kind of protein sources, set it a bit more higher, put it around 2.5, 2.6. But yeah, in and around 2 to 2.5, in that mid-range, you're going to be a pretty good place to go there.
Yeah. And in terms of, okay, when we think about protein then, so obviously we know that all foods contain a blend pretty much of macronutrients, don't they? Some foods are higher in fats, some foods are higher in carbohydrates, some foods are higher in protein, some might contain a couple of the macronutrients and not one of the others. So when we're talking about a protein-based food, we're talking pretty much about something that is primarily contains, or its main source of energy and macronutrients is coming from protein and maybe some fats or some carbohydrates, for example. So when we're talking about protein foods, Chris, is there anything that we should be, is there good, bad proteins that we should be looking to get into your diet?
For me, I would just keep thinking, now this depends on the person. Now, women, I find, do have they don't have as much of a kind of appetite for protein compared to some guys. For me, I think you just keep things straightforward. Look at some lean sources, turkey, chicken, like whitefish, whatever, and then sort of medium sort of fat sources like your beef, stuff like that, and then fatty cuts of like steak, etc. And then I think eat oily fish a couple of times a week, 2-3 times a week. It's going to be really beneficial for you as well. Obviously, that's higher fat. Eggs, egg whites, and then whey protein, and then also as well is that the more calories you eat, you are going to just increase protein content anyway, because even things like bread or stuff like that is going to have protein within it. But yeah, just focusing on those meats, whole sources that are going to have the full amino acid profile is going to be beneficial, and things like whey, etc., easy to use, and dairy as well, we haven't been touched on.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, is what I was trying to alluding to was with these good protein sources. If something's kind of referred to as a good protein source, then the quality of the protein is good, we're kind of referring to the amount of amino acids that are in the protein. And when we talk about amino acids, we're really talking about the key one, which is leucine. So leucine's job within this whole process is to spike muscle protein synthesis. So we have this elevation in muscle protein synthesis when we ingest a meal of around, to give you a quick figure or a bit of a rule of thumb, if you were to go anywhere between 0.3 of a very, very leucine-rich food, and that's 0.3 grams per kilo of body weight. So let's take whey protein, up to maybe 0.5, which might be a mixed meal, maybe containing, let's say, a lot of chicken with a couple of wraps or something. then that would be enough protein in order to spike muscle protein synthesis, because you're going to get enough leucine from that meal. Some other foods aren't particularly high in leucine, so you're going to need a lot more of protein in order to spike muscle protein synthesis. Some protein sources might not contain leucine, so really it's an inadequate sort of source. So really we want to be primarily using, like Chris said, chicken, beef, fish, eggs, dairy, whey, good single ingredient sources of food that we know are typically high in protein. And how often should we be trying to, is it better, Chris, to basically get in small feedings like every hour? Do we want a bit of protein every hour, or do we want protein like once a day? How often should we be eating protein?
Like if you can get for like 4-5 meals of protein feeding throughout the day, roughly going 3 to 5 hours, that's great. And yeah, like it depends how optimal you're going to be. If you get it every 5 hours, great. If you get it every 3 to 4, brilliant. If you get a bowl of serving, so a larger serving of protein before you go to bed, then even better. If you can get some protein as soon as you wake up in the morning, great. It's all about trying to be as optimal as possible.
Yeah.
Generally, people might eat 4 meals a day, and if all those meals have got a decent serving of protein from any 25 grams up at the least, then you're going to be doing what you need to do.
Yeah. And the reason why Chris basically said there about having that 3 to 5 hours is because essentially once you spike muscle protein synthesis, there's this refractory period where that elevation needs to drop in order for you to be able to essentially spike muscle protein synthesis again. And you've got two sides of the coin, haven't you? You've got muscle protein synthesis and then muscle protein breakdown. So really over the course of a day, over the course of the week, a month, we want to have a greater stimulus or a greater amount of muscle protein synthesis versus muscle protein breakdown, because these are both happening all of the time within the body. And I used to be the school of like, right, I'm going to have BCAAs all day because I'm not going to have any muscle protein breakdown. I'm going to sip on BCAAs and glutamine all day and I'm never going to have any muscle protein breakdown. But actually I could have been doing myself a massive disjustice there, because I'm not really letting muscle protein synthesis go through that refractory period so that I'm able to eat a bolus amount again before I can spike it. So sometimes actually, like Chris said, leaving 3 hours is pretty much the optimum, isn't it?
Mate, I don't know what you're on about. I saw you just sipping on BCAAs yesterday after lunch.
Oh yeah, mate.
You're being busted.
Yeah, but that's different, because I was getting them BCAAs in just to make sure I hit enough leucine within my meal.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll let you have that one.
So what's the optimum? Let's take a typical day. How many times could we spike muscle protein synthesis?
Okay, all right. So let's go through what I've done today. I'll just walk through today.
You've been optimum, have you, today?
Oh, well, we're going to find out, aren't we? Probably not.
And then we'll see if I've beat you to be more optimal.
You'd probably be more optimal. So for breakfast, I ate pretty much soon after I woke up, and I had like baked beans on whole grain bread with some eggs. So that's probably hit protein. Okay, and then
just about probably, if you're lucky.
And then I had. So what time was that? It was about 8:30, and then I had lunch about 1, and that would have been protein within that meal, definitely enough. And then I trained, and after training finished at 4:15, and I really wasn't in the mood for eating, but I know I had to spike MPS, so I just quickly nailed a shake, and that takes me to now. So I've had 3 already, but there's about 4 hours amongst those, so I think I'm doing all right. I'll probably have dinner about 7, and then just because I'm talking like this, it's going to make sure I'm even more optimal. I'll probably have a protein shake before bed. 5 servings, boom, not bad.
Yeah, mate, that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nowhere near as good as me.
Oh, here we go. He's been talking about this all week. He's Mr. MPS.
Yeah, mate, I'm back on it.
Yeah.
So this morning I had a whey protein with some Frango, and if you don't know what Frango is, it's basically frozen mango. It was a word I accidentally said in prep, and it was just kind of stuck. So some Frango makes like a sorbet.
Yeah, when you're in prep, saying frozen mango is just too much of a task. So you just have to put words together just to save energy. So Frango, probably saved you Well, a calorie. but then again, if you say half a word and go all the way down and then go back up again, it's 2 calories. So you think like get half.
Yeah.
The word you mean half calorie? Is that right?
Yes.
So it works with squats, doesn't it?
Yeah. Apparently, it works with squats. Apparently, that supposedly, if you only do half a squat, it's only 1 calorie. But if you do full depth, it's 2 calories.
Oh yeah, nice.
So
anyway, I think we've gone off topic.
We have gone off topic, but myself and Chris heard that off a particular health and nutrition guru, who clearly it's not true. There was no indication of intensity and weight, and I'm sure you guys are thinking, what? 1 calorie for half a squat? So anyway, it's a bit of an in-joke there. So anyway, yeah, Frango. And then I had that around 7. Then I went to the gym, so got some more, went to the gym, come home after that, went to the office actually, had a whey shake with a Bear Bells protein bar. Ooh. So that was nice. And then I also had a meat and like minced beef, it's lean fine mince, turkey with some sweet potato, and then I've just had another serving of that and another protein bar. So I think I've spiked MPS 5 times already today.
And you've gone full on bro, all the whey protein, sweet potatoes back in there. Oh, not sweet potatoes, the bro food, but yeah, mate, back on it big time.
Mate, I'm back on it. Yeah, no, it's old school, and do you know what? I'm enjoying it. And I'm not going like, I think with flexible dieting sometimes, or if it fits your macros, you can take it way too far. And if I'm honest, I've pushed my boundaries in the last 6 months. I've got a long training age, I've got a good amount of muscle, and I am able to
have Pizza Hut twice a week.
Get away with it before it looks like I've actually gained some body fat, just because of how my body's put together.
But I think that like nutrition can be very much like training, where it's lovely to be on it, feeling good, prepping your meals, like just really enjoying your food. But there can be periods where you just like tracking becomes a chore. Your diet just slips off a little bit. It's the same with training. That kind of motivation can ebb and flow.
It's like anything, isn't it?
It's easy to be on point when you're kind of prepping or losing body fat, etc. But when you're actually in an off season and trying to gain muscle, it's quite easy for that to waver a little bit.
Yeah,
it's easy to lose focus.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm not going to let it kind of consume me. If I've got a couple of birthdays coming up, I'm going to enjoy some nice meals out. I'm going to estimate where I'm about, and that's going to be great, and that's all I'm going to need to do. But one thing that I'm really going to focus on is making sure I'm getting good quality protein sources in at least 5 times a day, because I think for me that's realistic. Some of my clients, they can only do it 3 times a day, and that's cool. That's fine. But for me, if I want to step my game up and if I want to be a great bodybuilder in the future, then I'm going to need to put this work in now. And yeah, so for me, minimum of 5 times a day, I'm going to try and spike MPS. And like you said, another great way is to have some sort of slow digesting protein before you go to bed in a bigger serving. So about 0.5 gram per kilo of body weight. So again, if you're an 80 kilo guy, that's about 40 grams of whey or casein protein before you go to bed, and that will kind of do you enough just to basically prevent muscle protein breakdown for a few hours while you're asleep. And then, Chris, is the magic question: do you get up in the middle of the night and have a whey shake to do it again?
If you wake up, you might as well have one.
Yep.
But don't wake yourself up for the sake of it.
Nice.
I think on this point as well, it's really easy for people to go completely other end of the scale and say, I was taking a piss out of Steve a minute ago, didn't really is that saying, oh, you're full on bro, whatever, you're doing this, you're having protein, casein before bed, you wake in the middle of the night and there happens to be a protein bar by your bed and you have it if you wake up. And it's like, well, yeah, all right, but if I can make myself 1% more optimal, I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
As long as you don't think it's absolutely necessary for everyone, that's fine. But if you want to do something and maybe do something a little bit better, then do it.
Oh, that's it. I used to have when I was in prep one year, I used to have ready prepared protein shakes in my fridge.
Yeah.
Those ready to drink ones, and they were great. 30 grams of whey, and taste nice, and all I had to do was take the lid off. And if I didn't have it, then I just had it the next day. after the gym or whatever, and that's fine. Like, I enjoy it, and it's been really good. Again, back on some simple supplementation. I'm back on using creatine and some fish oils and a multivitamin, just some simple stuff really, just to make sure I'm ticking all those boxes and doing everything I need to do so I can perform well in the gym going forward now. So, nice. I think we've hit home about training. We've spoke about, nutrition. We've spoke about protein. We spoke about calories. All right, here's a question: fats or carbs? Does it matter too much? What would your preference be if you had to kind of have a bigger proportion coming from one or the other?
I would always put a preference to carbohydrates as it's a main preferred fuel substrate. There is a little bit of stuff coming out which I've heard from a few people talking about maybe keeping fat much lower, because obviously it's much harder to convert carbohydrate into body fat. There's no actual scientific study on that at the moment, but I think it's just a few people's their thoughts at the moment. So it'll be interesting over the next couple of years to hear what's said on that. So whether actually in an off season you should be keeping fats at 20%, 15-20%, and actually jacking up carbs as high as you can. Yeah. But having said that, for some people, if they do struggle to get calories in, actually just getting fat, obviously it's 9 calories per gram, can be a bit easier, but always making sure that you're keeping carbohydrates your main fuel source at around 40 to 50% calories of total calories. It's going to aid training performance.
This is one thing I've thought about, is obviously everyone has their own nitrogen balance, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I've been thinking about is maybe when I'm in an off season and I push up fats and carbs, I might actually be getting a lot of my extra protein from non-leucine rich foods, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's one thing I'm really focusing on now with my meals, is actually I'm kind of looking at this in twofold. I'm looking at my protein intake, not as just this daily amount that I know I've got to get in, like we sort of spoke about earlier, which is kind of fun. Fundamentally it works great for a lot of people, but we're speaking about being optimal. So what you kind of want to look at is how many feedings can you get in every day consistently without causing you too much stress. So if it's 5 or 6 or whatever, or 4 or 5, fine, just pick it. And then work out how much you need of leucine-rich servings of protein per meal. So if we went for that, I don't know, let's meet in the middle, 0.4 grams per kilo. So you take 0.4 and you times that by your body weight, and that will give you an amount of how much protein you need to be getting from, let's say, chicken or beef or whatever, and then you can work out how much grams of that meat that actually is. And then once you've established that, so let's say you need 30 grams of protein at every single meal, you can do it 5 times, that gives you what, Chris? 150, right? And let's say you had an additional 50 gram serving before you went to bed, you're at 200 grams of protein. And then let's say that's what you were going to have as a minimum, and then you were going to go for, on top, your sweet potato, your rice, and you're going to get a bit more protein on top of that. So your overall calorie or your protein target for the day might be 220 to 240. It's certainly going to be on that higher end, but for me, that's what I'm going to be going for, and seeing how I feel on that.
I think also that comes back to is that when you are, trying to gain muscle and your calories are a bit higher, actually, making sure the calories come from a certain places is great, but if you go over your protein, it ain't the end of the world. No. It's not that when you're dieting where you're like, well, you've just eaten over by 100 calories, and that actually is a big deal when you're dieting, where when you're trying to gain muscle, it's like, well, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
Your protein will probably go up. So that's what I say to my clients when they are trying to gain muscle, like, listen, try and get if you're kind of getting around these calories, it's great, but I'm not going to kick off if you're kind of you're over. So
the worst thing you can do is be under, because you won't make the progress that you want to make. If you go over, all you kind of risk is basically building body fat. Storing more body fat.
And at the end of the day, like the amount you're probably going to eat is probably not going to do anything towards excess body fat. You just wake up heavy the next day, a bit more food in your digestive system, glycogen could be higher, whatever. Nice. Right. So what's your tip on gaining muscle? We've nailed nutrition.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm going to go for training. I'm going to go for this. So
what's your training?
For me, God, where do I even start on this? But I think that I'm going to put it out there, and it's going to sound a bit mean, but I see a lot of people train Sorry, hang on a minute. Let me rephrase this. I see a lot of people going to the gym, and I see a lot of people lifting weights or moving weights, but I wouldn't say they were training.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that there is no tension at all going on. There is no consideration for what that person's trying to do. So, and these are people that, and it could be you that, you might be listening to this and being, you might get to the end of this and go, actually, that could be me Steve's talking about. And if it is, if you do feel like that, I only want to help. So that's kind of why, unless you are, it's all about being self-aware, right? Self-awareness is so important when you're training. So when you're going to the gym and you've got this training plan, you've got it off bodybuilding.com, or you've got it off Teambox, or you've got it off whoever, right? You're looking at these workouts and it's like, well, you're doing a dumbbell shoulder press. So what are we trying to do there? Ask yourself that first question. What am I trying to do by moving this dumbbell above my shoulders, and what muscle group should I be working? Right? So straight away, that's your first question. Second question is, can I actually feel it in my shoulders that are trying to work? Or am I feeling fatigue in other muscle groups? Like if it's your traps or if it's your chest or whatever, that should be ringing some alarm bells if it is, and not in the place where it should be. So I think that's, for me, some really core aspects is like that, just self-awareness of what's going on. And then is that person maintaining activation and tension throughout the entire range of that movement, right from the start up to the top and then back down? Because if there is a point where, you're just lifting with momentum, or you're just swinging it, or, you're not even activating the delt, or like just tensing the delt to get it moving, then actually you're probably not getting out of that program what you should. I have some people say to me, oh Steve, this training plan's too easy. And I'm like, how is it easy? Like, that is a hard program. But it's because there might be that minimal amount of muscle activation and no tension going on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, kind of everything you said there, but I was going to make a post on it today, is that, the intensity you need to train at as well is that, let's look at weights and what it is that lifting weights is quite an alien thing when you look at it. Your body, you're creating stress for your body to become stronger to deal with that stress. So what have you got to do with that training? It needs to be stressful. Training should not be easy.
Yeah.
And like, how many people just go in the gym and just go from A to B and never work in intensity? And if you're not going to work in intensity, it's not anywhere near stressful for your body. You're not going to adapt from it. You're not going to become stronger. You're not going to build more tissue.
Yeah.
So,
and I was going to say, Chris, like, that is such a great point, because intensity doesn't mean load, and I think people forget that. Like, I've been next to a guy before, and I've been in the gym, and he's half my size. I mean, I'm not massive, but he's half my size, and he's got the 20 kilo dumbbells trying to curl them, and I'm there with the tens, and I'm like, I'm making this 10 kilo weight stressful, I'm making it intense. I'm never giving my bicep a break. It's constantly moving, it's constantly contracting, constantly under tension, even on the eccentric, or when I'm going down, like the relaxing part. It shouldn't be a relaxing part, it should just, or the lowering aspect. I should be able to stop it at any point and move it straight back up. It should never stop, that intensity. Whereas the guy next to me, he's got these 20s, he's absolutely hoifing it up with, his hips, his chest, he's moving his elbow, he's just swinging it back down. He can't wait for it to get to the bottom where there's obviously nothing. He's just dangling it then before he goes for his next rep. He's resting at the top. It's not particularly strenuous. He's just swinging a big load, and all the stress that his body's going through is trying to balance it more than is actually trying to train his bicep. And I just think that sometimes we need to leave our ego at the door and make sure that we're making the weight or the load that you pick intense, and you're making it stressful.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And, with the training program as well, is that when you're trying to get, progressional overload, which is obviously a massive consideration, the thing that you should have with your training for muscle gain, is that progressional overload could also as well be, having the same weight but lifting it better, lifting it with better activation, getting better contraction. So actually, when you wake up the next day, you're a little bit sore because you're like, oh wow, I'm actually training that muscle group properly. And it's nice to see a line graph going up with how much load you're lifting and volume, etc. But that only tells a little bit of the story, and why you need to make sure that everything's perfect. And with the team box we retreated a month and a half ago, is that we had lots of guys and they're experienced trainers, some actual personal trainers, and every one of them took at least one thing away from each exercise we taught them, and like, oh, actually, I should be doing this. So,
training is so in depth, and it is such a skill. Like, we've got some top trainers on our books who come and work with us in. At their retreat, they said to me, like, Steve, you've literally blown my mind with what I need to be thinking about when I'm not only training myself, but when I'm training my clients, because, there's a massive difference. And if you want to feel it for yourself, next time you're doing dumbbell curls, instead, count how long it takes you for that lowering portion of your lift. If it's a second, right, now do it for 5 seconds and tell me it's harder. Or tell me it's easier, and you'll find out that is more intense by having a 5 second lowering portion than just that 1 second, and you'll soon feel that difference in intensity. And you want to be tense, you want to be able to squeeze all those muscles all the time, constantly. Think about activating them, squeezing them as hard as you can, and just focus on, rather than focusing on getting the dumbbell from the bottom to the top, just focus on squeezing your bicep. You can do it without any load, just focus on squeezing that bicep. Once you've mastered that, put a load in your hand, then do it. As you get better and it becomes easier, put a bit of a heavier load on it, or do it for more repetitions. That's progressive overload. It's just that simple. So, Chris, I think we'll leave that there. I think we've touched on some nice little bits, but we've got so much more to talk about, and I know we'll do another podcast on maybe some more advanced techniques than just kind of maintaining tension and also eating enough protein. But what I want from you, Chris, is another little cheeky feature we're going to do. What is your... First of all, we've got a couple of things here I want to do. Exercise of the week.
Exercise of the week. I'm trying to think what anything I've got in my training program which I've been enjoying. I'll tell you what, one exercise I have been enjoying in my training and actually put it into a few of my clients is a Bradford press. Now,
what is the Bradford press? Tell us.
Bradford press is like a barbell shoulder press, a slightly wider grip. And basically, you start with the bar in front of you from a standard military position, press the bar out in front, and then literally bring your elbows back, press it behind your head, press it back in over your head, out in front of you, and that's one rep.
Nice. So it's basically in
front and behind the neck press.
Yeah,
nice.
One.
So yeah, really enjoying that. It's been,
why is that your favourite? Why is that your exercise of your week?
I think when people want to build their shoulders, there's so much focus given on the anterior delt, so the front portion of your shoulder, and rear delts, and also as well, just from a posture point of view as well, is that Bradford press is just such a nice position to get yourself training. Obviously that anterior, but also that rear delt as well. So,
and it must help your upper back to maintain that position. You probably get a good chest stretch out of it as well at the bottom of that second rep. Nice.
Yeah, no break in don't ever let your arms fully extend, go back in front, keep the weight moving, do 8 reps on that, which is basically kind of 16 reps if you were going to do in front and behind. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I'm going to go for my exercise of the week. It's going to be the stiff leg deadlift. Something that I taught with the retreat, and do you know what? It's one of those that so many people do it wrong. So many people lift a stiff leg deadlift with their back and not with their glutes. It should be a hip hinge, not a back extension. And I'm going to see if I can ask... So what we did at the retreat was we used some different things like bands, different cues to basically get people hip hinging. But what a lot of people fail to do, and the next time you're doing your stiff leg deadlift, what I want you to focus on is not thinking about how much it stretches your hamstrings. Because just because it stretches your hamstrings doesn't necessarily mean that is what is working and contracting. Okay? So just be aware of that when you are doing your stiff leg deadlifts. You only need to go as low. So if you're starting with the bar or the dumbbells at your hips, and you start by moving your hips back, you keep a nice flat lumbar spine. That should basically stay the same, and you basically keep pushing your hips back and back and back, like you're trying to sit down basically, and you're trying to push your bum back as far as it will go. The bar only needs to go as low as pretty much your knees, or maybe that little bit lower. It doesn't necessarily need to go to the floor. Having this big long stretch at the bottom, which takes you out of a position where you have to then start to use your lower back to get the bar up again, because that's ultimately what gets compromised when you go that low, because your hamstrings won't go any further than they can go, which tends to be for most people that I know to about their knees, unless you're extremely mobile and you might be able to get it to the floor, but those people are so few and far between. But to get it from your knees to the floor, people are using their lower back. So all of that tension that we were maintaining on our glutes and our hammies is no longer there. So yeah, that's for me is my exercise of the week when done correctly for a great hamstring and glute builder.
Nice. Yeah, I love a good RDL or a good stiff leg deadlift, whatever you want to call it. Decent exercise.
Nice. So final feature of the podcast. We don't have many listener questions yet. Obviously, we've just started season 2. So if you have a question for the podcast, it could be on training, nutrition, supplements, whatever. It could be a topic you want covered, whatever. Then you can email me, info@team-box.co.uk. You'll find it in the podcast description. You can email us and just ask us your question. If there's anything personal that you don't want included, then just let me know in that email, and I won't obviously read out your name or whatever, or the personal bits that you don't want answered. And I can give a real good general summary, and I'll ask whatever guest or coach that I've got on to ask with that question. But for now, Chris, last thing, stupid mistakes you've made over the years. Keep it lighthearted, and with this feature, with this, I want to keep it a common theme. This maybe stupid things that or stupid mistakes we've made, because we're all learning. This, like I've said, I was doing some stupid stuff for the last 6 months. I wasn't getting enough protein in, so now I'm looking at myself going, no, I need to do that again. So it's lighthearted. We've all made mistakes. I've made so many, and over the next sort of coming weeks, you'll find out probably a lot about those and the guests that we get on. Some great name guests who we would deem experts. We've all been there. We've all made mistakes, and we've all learned. So hopefully, if we can share some of those mistakes, you can be like, oh, hang on a minute, I'm still doing that. So why am I doing it? Let's learn more, and maybe could be a better way or a different way. So Chris, one thing, stupid mistake you've made in the past.
Oh, God, how long you got? Training on nutrition brace.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter. I'll tell you. All right, okay. This one I've not mentioned before is that when I first started lifting weights, I was like, I need to get something that's going to get me massive, get me gains. So I went to Boots, and they did this disgusting, I think it was casein whey, I can't remember, but it came in a cardboard box in like a silver packet, and I was getting mugged off. It was like 25 quid for the box, and there was probably like 6 servings in there. And I used to mix it with water, and oh my God, it tasted hideous.
Was it a mass gainer?
No, it wasn't even that. It was just some crappy whey. It had like I think it had like 16 grams of protein in per serving as well, so it's a waste of time. And I would literally take this, and after like 10 days, I was like, why am I not massive? And I was like 16 at the time. And the taste used to smell. I used to live on a farm, and basically the stuff that my dad used to give sick sheep, it used to smell like that. So yeah, like you've got this small lamb that's like gasping for life, like, and you just give it this like Complan thing, and it used to smell the same. And my dad used to actually think I was drinking it. It was like, is that stuff we give a sheep? And I was like, no, that's this magic stuff that comes with Boots. And yeah, I just couldn't believe I wasn't massive after taking it for 2 weeks, and it tasted disgusting. But the rest of my diet was pretty shambolic as well. Like I think I was having pain au chocolat for breakfast at that time as well. So,
it's a strong breakfast. I think it's one of the mistakes we've all made, isn't it? Right? I used to go to the supplement shop, looking at them all like, right, this mass gain has got 25 grams of protein. This one's got 26. But this one's got 2 grams of sugar, but this one's got 3 grams of sugar. But this one's £5 more. And I'm like, but I'm not even looking at the protein amount or the sugar or the carbohydrate amount in my entire diet over the day or over the week. But I thought that didn't matter, and what mattered was that protein shake I've made. So like if you are worried about protein, has it got this, has it got that, basically just get a good standard whey protein or a good casein protein if you want it before you go to bed, for example. Don't bother with mass gainers, just eat more food. Cocoa Pops is fine if you need to get your carbs in. You don't need to buy an expensive mass gainer. Just get a good whey protein. Most supplement shops will do one, but unless you're actually looking at your entire diet, then don't quibble over the minor details, eh?
Yeah, I've had people like a couple of years ago, mates come up to me and be like, "Yeah, I've started taking this whey 2 weeks, not noticed any difference," and I'm just like, "What?" Like, what difference are you expecting to see? Like, if you're under eating on protein, you might find you just don't get stiff and sore, you recover slightly better. But I think he was definitely saying it in the words of like, "Yeah, mate, I'm not jacked. Like, this is a rip off. Like, two weeks in, this is crazy." It's like, it says here maxi muscle. Like, oh, whoops. It's like,
hey, come on, mate.
I should get maximum muscle. Like, come on, it says it on the label. It's like, have I been marketed into this? Maybe, mate.
Yeah. It's not Ronsil.
No, exactly. What about you, or is this just a guest one? I'm sure you've got a few, haven't you?
Oh, mate, I've got loads. Loads.
Get the first episode off with a bang. What's the most stupid thing Stephen boxes? I mean, I've got plenty of what you've done backed up. If you want a hand.
I used to put coconut oil, pure fat, into my coffee because I thought that would help me burn more calories.
Yeah.
When actually,
we've been there.
The amount of calories I was ingesting from that tablespoon of bloody fat, was nowhere near going to offset what I was actually eating, basically. So that was a stupid thing that I did. Bulletproof coffee, whatever it is, ain't bulletproof. It's rubbish. But again, you follow these, people that are meant to be thought leaders or influencers or whatever, and they've got a podcast and they've got a blog, and you're like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. But no, he doesn't. Rubbish. Yeah. And it's good to question. Like, I wasn't critical enough. I didn't question. Didn't ask why, and I didn't look at the research and the science like we do now. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to take away from anything, is that nutrition training. Just be critical of what you're doing, what you're reading, who you're listening to. Yeah. Even us, be critical of what we're saying. Be critical. Yeah. Ask us questions. If you don't agree, say something. Like, let's discuss it. We'd love to get that going because it helps educate people.
Yeah.
And I'd hope what we do say we can back up with some actual real science and evidence, and we'll go to the effort of finding that for you and providing it for you so you can see for yourself, so you can see where we're getting this information from. We're not just making it up and just claiming it's out there somewhere, because that's ridiculous. That's not evidence-based at all. So anyway, that's my stupid thing that I've done in the past. And like if you are doing it at the moment, just look at it and go, if you really, really enjoy it, and it's a small amount, and you're still losing weight, it's not really that too much of a problem. But if it gets to the point where you're consuming so much of it that you're not losing body weight anymore, or actually you could probably get those fats from another source which you'd enjoy more, like, rather than then having a day of egg whites, you're having some whole eggs or whatever, then enjoy the food. Don't just waste it on coconut oil in your coffee.
100%.
Yeah, nice. All right, great. So anyway, this show has been brought to you by Teambox. Teambox are a group of incredible... Can I say incredible?
Oh, mate, you've gone for it.
I've gone for it. Yeah, we're incredible. Hey. Helping people get shredded, gain muscle. So if you want some of that, head over to our website. We've got plenty of blogs, more episodes that you can watch and listen to, and we've got group coaching coming up in the next couple of months. If you want to dip your toe, or if you want us to actually help you, then just apply and we'll be able to get back to you straight away. Anyway, speak to you next week. Chris, thanks for coming on to the show again, mate. I'm sure you'll be back soon. And I'll see you next week, mate.
Take it easy, mate.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.